Welcome to Executing the Vision podcast. I'm your host, Brad Hunter, president of Emerge Labs. On the podcast, we'll get to know the person behind the vision, their successes, their challenges, and their plans for the future. If you're interested in becoming a guest or know someone who might be a good fit, stick around to the end and we'll discuss how to apply. Now, enjoy the show. Welcome to another version of another episode of Executing the Vision. I'm your host, Brad Hunter, and today I have Jenny Coates, and Jenny is currently the president at Boathouse Sports, which seems like a very cool concept you have going, but also on top of that, just have quite an impressive career overall.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, would like to start out just kind of understanding what was life like growing up? You know, where did you grow up? Kind of what was the family situation? What was the whole dynamic there growing up?
Sure. Very Ozzie and Harriet. I grew up in a very small town in North Jersey called Glen Rock. I have two parents, a younger brother, and we had the, golden retriever and yellow lab. So it was a very wonderful childhood. Lived in Glen Rock almost my whole life, went to public school there, and then I graduated, went to NYU, and then NYU again after that. So pretty local to the New York City area. And yeah.
And then what did your parents do? You know what? Because you
Sure.
kind of seem to be in a very entrepreneurial type spirit.
Yeah, it's funny. So my father worked for most of my life at Con Ed. He was the manager of environmental affairs at Con Ed. My mother actually was a nurse. She went to nursing school. She grew up with the kind of mentality, if you were a woman, you were a nurse, a secretary, or a teacher. And so she was a nurse. But when I was in college, my mother actually went back to college and she got first, her undergraduate degree. She really wanted to be a teacher. And then she went on to get numerous master's degrees and have a very successful career teaching in the Ridgewood public school system near where we grew up. So actually quite inspirational and a little bit of a different journey for her. Yeah.
Okay. And when you were at NYU, what were you studying there?
So when I started at NYU, I was studying vocal performance. And I quickly transitioned into the Gallatin School, which is a very cool kind of concept they have there, where you can design your own course of study, very minimal actual requirements. You work very closely with an advisor, and you are able to take advantage of all the wonderful different types of courses that they have at a big school like that. So my final thesis was essentially about the role of music in the minority cultures in New York City history, specifically women and Irish Americans. So maybe not the most marketable degree anyone ever had, but then I went and got an MBA, a real straightforward MBA. So I try to balance the scales.
Yeah. And so then looking back at your resume, seems like, got out of college, seemed to be on a fairly normal trajectory of, a career track of doing some different things, being a buyer at Macy's, account executive type stuff. Like kind of walk me through those early years and then how you, kind of transitioned over to the leadership role.
Yes, I'd love to. So when I graduated college, I went straight to work for Stewart Living Omnimedia, which was a really wonderful place to work, very just surrounded by talented, interesting people. Next to me, there might be someone programming the back end of a website, and down the hall, someone making a baked Alaska. It's just a very interesting place. I was at Martha for a couple of years. Then I actually took a pause to do professional singing. And then I went back to Macy's. So not the most traditional, but I got my job at Macy's and I started going to Stern at night at that time. So I was in the tabletop department at Macy's and transitioned over to Macy's East when that still existed after that. So certainly the Macy's network is strong and it's deep. And I've continued to work with and for and hired people from all the departments of Macy's over the years. So from Macy's, finished my MBA, and then I was recruited by someone I had worked with to come over to Hartman Luggage. So transitioned over to the brand side where I've been ever since. And Hartman was a very interesting luggage company based in Lebanon, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. At the time, they were still making a little bit in the USA. And I was there a couple of years. It was really great introduction to the brand side. I had a wonderful mentor who really took me under his wing and really taught me how to how to be successful on that side of the table. From there, I jumped back to cosmetics. I did a little bit of jumping for a few years then, back into the cosmetics field at BPI, which is a part of Shiseido, and then Lancome. It wasn't the best culture fit for me. And so I transitioned back to tabletop then. I worked for a Swedish company called Orifors Costa Boda. I don't know many people are familiar with those brands, but if you've seen the show Friends, Monica had a very distinctive Costa Boda bowl in her apartment. So usually that will call to mind an image for a lot of people. And yeah, that took me through to the big opportunity, the next phase. Yeah.
It's in these roles were all account manager, sales
Yeah.
type roles, correct?
Correct. Up until that point was very exclusively in sales and account management, sell in, sell through. That's actually one of the most important things I learned early on was to focus on sell through. It's not about how much I can push out the door into a store. The important thing is how much of my product is the store selling out to the customer. It's the difference between selling somebody something one time and developing a lasting, growing customer base. It gets you a lot of trust and it gets you a healthier business at the end of the day. So, yeah.
And what did you find as far as like secrets to accomplishing that goal? Getting
Um,
to sell through. Just I assume it
right.
just varied dramatically by client and by situation, but just offering them kind of more support than they would have expected.
I will say it has shifted over time. So at the beginning, I would have accomplished that goal by focusing on in-store point of sale presentation, ensuring signage is good, supporting retailer marketing strategies, co-op catalogs, promotions, etc. I will say the shift has happened dramatically that it's really even more now. The burden of sell through is squarely kind of on the brand, I would say. And these days, I would accomplish that. The focus for me is on digital content. So by the time somebody is seeing the product in a store, they have experienced it on social media. They've interacted with the brand on social. They've seen it, come across their feed. And that when you get to the product in the store, that the packaging is excellent, the content, really, it's just about content. I I often will say the extreme example of this is I had had many very successful sales meetings in my career where I went into a meeting with an empty box, essentially. And I sold them on our brand's ability to connect with the consumer, to create the demand, and that by the time the consumer sees this box, they will want it. And occasionally there was literally nothing in it. And that kind of it almost never came up. So yeah, that's that's really the name of the game. Yeah.
So obviously you were very successful on the sales side, very good
Thank
at
you.
developing relationships,
Mm.
right? Spent a lot of years in different facets doing that. So then how did you transition over to the executive side?
So in 17, I joined the team at Storebound, which was a startup founded by Evan Dash. He was a Macy's executive when I was there in the houseware space. And he created this company with the idea that you could do housewares differently. Another thing that I've learned over the years is that it's, I would say, critical in any business to make sure you're always bringing in fresh eyes and fresh perspectives. So instead of filling his new housewares company with a bunch of people that had been selling housewares for 30 years, he filled it with just people that he felt were interesting, entrepreneurial, kind of motivated. So having the opportunity at Storebound to join so early on as the VP of sales, but also when you're working at a startup environment, you have the opportunity to really do so much, as much as you're kind of willing to do. And so I was able to grow at Storebound to not only just sales, but to experience kind of the 360 of running a business and growing a business. We scaled incredibly fast and successfully. And so that was worked out really wonderful to get that opportunity and to grow something from scratch, as opposed to in previous roles really being hired to fix something. A business is in decline, can we get it back to growth? Profitability is sinking, can we get it back to profitable? Usually because the whether it was Hartman or Forest Coast Kubota, they were looking to have a change of ownership or a new strategy. So to join Storebound and be able to actually grow something was also incredibly exciting and different for me.
And now you mentioned the idea that the owner of the company was very focused on bringing the right personality, the right type. What is your number one trait for employees? If employees that are looking to make their way up the ladder, what is it that you
Yeah.
see in an employee that, stands out to you that you say, hey, you know what, this person needs to move up?
I think when I gathering a team and training a team, it's the best part of what I do no matter where I am. And the thing I look for the most, I would say, is to sum up, is an intellectual curiosity. I want someone who wants to learn, wants to grow, won't be afraid to say if they don't know something, won't be afraid to seek collaboration from colleagues. I think that the way any business succeeds truly, if you can surround yourself and create a culture of professional curiosity, collaboration, accountability, and you get people working together to feel like they're succeeding together, then that's a group of people who is going to want to win together and grow a business. So as opposed to, siloed people who feel like I'm going to get mine, I'm going to do my thing and get my due, and I'm not really going to worry about kind of what that means to the people around me. And so, yeah, I think curiosity is one good word for it.
And what would you say, what mistakes were made early on that you wish you could have redone in that process? Because obviously, in the end, it all worked out great, right?
Well, it's not over yet. I think early on in my career, the mistakes would be very numerous, of course, but I would say, again, to sum it up, two things would be I did not focus on networking at all. I did not prioritize building a diverse professional network. I basically worried about the person to my left and the person to my right. And I didn't get out there. And I was living in New York City, I didn't get out there and join organizations and just try to get my name and my face in the conversation. I felt that later in my career, just how invisible I was outside of the people that could, in my immediate surrounding. So I really wish I had prioritized networking and just generating more personal PR. And, I just wish I had taken my career a little more seriously as well, kind of owned my career trajectory as opposed to just being a little bit casual about what came next and where I would go. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like when early on, yep, you're just kind of like, this is the job I got. It's
yeah,
whatever. And then like, you just kind of ebb and flow a little bit. And I feel like it takes you a while to really pause and figure out a true direction.
yeah, yeah. Well,
And
for
now
me, that was true. Yeah.
what do you do these days as far as networking goes? What do you find as a good, effective?
So I joined this year and under the heading of what took me so long, Women in Retail, which has been just the most wonderful organization just from the minute I joined. It's a collection of smart, interested, and interesting women really just looking to help each other, whether it's providing references or recommendations, looking to learn from each other. I've really never experienced anything so dramatic like it. It's been wonderful. So I would highly recommend that to any young women listening if they have the ability. It's a nationwide organization. They have wonderful resources, events, just oh, it's been amazing. I also I've joined a couple of years ago Vistage, which is another
Oh,
wonderful,
yeah.
not so much it's kind of networking and it's also kind of professional betterment. I took some classes for a couple of years with Section, which is an online education platform that was started by one of my business school professors, Scott Galloway, a personal hero. And that's another great way because they not only provide classes that you can take, but they foster community. They have, Slack groups and they foster kind of networking that way. So just I've tried a couple different things. Excuse me.
And then what about, okay, so take me then from Storebound to Boathouse.
Yeah. So Boathouse is a wonderful company made in the USA apparel. Boathouse has been making apparel in the USA for 40 years. It was started by a former Olympic rower, John Strotbeck, It was founded with one jacket, the Stevenson jacket, which is meant for rowing specifically. It has some design features meant for that motion in a boat. And from there, they expanded into making product for teams, outerwear and uniforms. And over the past 40 years, they have outfitted every team from, at one point, every team in the NFL. In fact, Andy Reid, the head coach of the Chiefs, the jacket he always wears on the sidelines, it has a Nike swoosh, but that's a Boathouse jacket that we've always made for him. And so we've outfitted Olympic teams, national teams, D1 schools, prep schools, high schools, just Boathouse. And about 5 years ago, they started a retail strategy. They launched a website. Unfortunately, COVID kind of derailed things dramatically, especially, again, everything being made in the USA. They had to close the factory for a while. When they reopened, they could only make PPE, and then they were very happy to do it for a long time. And so the retail strategy was a little derailed. And so in April, the founder brought me in. He had taken a break from running the business. He came back in early 2024, and he brought me in April as part of a few people to have a new team to give the brand just a big push to try to get the retail side of things going, to try to expand the business outside of team and into more traditional retail, bookstore retail. And so that is what we have been working on. It feels really good to work for a company that's made in the USA, I have to say. That was a
Yeah.
big draw.
And now you've mentioned earlier, you talked about team building and things like
Mm.
that. Where are you guys at with AI? What have you guys done? Are you doing anything on that front?
Not officially, but in small ways, I have been trying to incorporate it both into my own personal workflow and also to show the teams internally what we can do with it. So for me personally, I use it in so many different ways. I use it as a proofreader, to improve emails and things like that. But the most, I would say, helpful thing I do is when we are having board presentations or I'm getting ready for a big pitch, I'll feed it my deck. I will tell it about the people who are going to be in the room. And I will say, act like so-and-so person. What questions would you ask me? What do you think is lacking here? What follow-up might there be? So that's been wonderful. It has a lot of use in our marketing team to help with product pages, copy, even suggestions for different ways to showcase product. And my product development team has been starting to experiment with the 3D, the graphic side of things and how it can render more realistic images of products that we're working on, because the more realistic we can get our product images, the better our sell-in will be on the, on the launches. So I do try to incorporate it a lot. When I joined Section and I took those classes a couple of years ago, that was the huge focus. They seemed to offer a very robust catalog of AI education. And so I really did focus myself on that a lot.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Initially, I don't know, I didn't pay a ton of attention to it. It kind of just felt like, whatever, it's this chatbot thing. Like,
Mm.
and then the past, say, 6 months or so, I really have started focusing on it. And I do think it's very impressive what truly can be done if you spend some time to train a model,
Yeah.
especially a model with your information, your knowledge. And then I think what's right around the corner with that, I think it's going to be a super valuable tool for training and team, because it won't be long from right now that you would be able to create a replica of yourself that even on a screen like this, you would not know if it was you or the AI. And if
Yeah.
you load that up with all of your knowledge and all of everything, to me, and I look at that and look at different uses, I see it from an executive perspective as to you can spend so much more time with your team. You can
Yeah.
from a training, so it's interesting to me, like we're kind of starting this pilot project and I'm always curious to see like where other people are at with that.
That's interesting. That's where it starts to, yeah, it learns obviously the more I tell it about myself and my business, and it learns so much. Sometimes it's even surprising to me how good how good what it kicks back is. To your point, it really is really starting to think like me in a lot of ways. So yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. When you
it's
go
it's
through the
exciting and terrifying all in the same breath, right?
I know, right? I listen to certain
Oy.
podcasts, you're like, the world's gonna end, you know?
Excuse me. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, question for you. So
Yeah.
throughout all of this, what is your biggest mental obstacle to overcome and work on a daily basis? Like what part, I imagine there's parts of it that just come easy, right? There's
Hmm.
parts of the job you just don't have to think about. You love it, it comes easy. And there, what parts are like the challenging parts that like you just don't want to really have to deal with and really feel like a struggle?
I think the biggest mental obstacle or every review I've ever been given, the biggest area for improvement or opportunity for improvement, however they try to put things like that, is going to be balancing a very healthy amount of self-confidence and professional confidence with self-awareness and realizing that you can be, as you know, I tend to be so certain, that you have the right answer, the right path, the right solution. But if you are not generating consensus and creating and being very open to learning and taking in new ideas, that is not going to be a successful way to be. So I would say mentally, and I do hope that if I were to ask somebody, they would say I've made an improvement in this field. But mentally, that is something I do remind myself of a lot. Yeah.
And do you feel successful in life?
Yeah. I don't. I think I'm doing all right. I think when I look at, again, thinking of the hypothetical review, I think what I like to point to is not necessarily what I've succeeded at, but what have I been able to generate with the people around me? Have I created a high performing team? Have I mentored people? Have I created success for other people? And I really do like to view my accomplishments in that kind of realm. And I think if I were to do that, I would say yes, I've been successful, and I look forward to more.
Oh, good. That's great.
Mm,
It's always a very interesting. I mean, because I interview people who are very successful people,
yeah,
and and it's interesting to see how do they view it, right? Because I'm sure
right.
most people see it and like, yeah, of course she has to feel successful. But it's very interesting. I do feel like by the nature of it, people that are super driven and tend to accomplish a lot, always kind of have that feeling of like, well, I'm close to there, but I'm not there. You know, I think that seems to
Yeah.
be the nature of a little more. There's always a little more.
Somebody that I worked for once, we were having a management all hands kind of offsite. And the question was, something to the effect of, what's going to be the biggest challenge this year? What are you the most afraid of? And I remember my answer was, that I won't be able to achieve all of the things that I know we're capable of doing, something of that nature, kind of never, I will never think I've hit the top of the mountain. But if I, like I said, if I look at it from the view of what have I been able to impart on others and generate in other people, and then it's a little easier to say, yes, that was success. So
And what's for Boathouse? What are we hoping to achieve this year? How can we help you
yeah.
achieve that?
Well, everybody can, boathouse.com, shop made in the USA. What I'm hoping to achieve this year, it's been exciting so far, really hit the ground running January 1st or 2nd. We're onboarding a lot of wonderful new salespeople, essentially looking to take the great success we've had in a very regional way, right around our factory in Philadelphia, and multiply it around the country. So I'm excited to work with a lot of wonderful new salespeople, and my hope is that by the end of this year, you will see Boathouse product in bookstores and apparel stores and, in all around the country, and not just kind of in the immediate Philadelphia, New Jersey kind of region. So I think just prioritizing made in the USA is helpful. I think if you're listening to this and you have a store and you're interested in made in the USA apparel, look me up. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. I think we did a lot of good groundwork in 2024. Not always as flashy and visible as some things, but really important groundwork. And I think we really positioned ourselves this year to make some big steps, which is exciting.
And what are you guys? Is it anything you find on like sources like Amazon or the TikTok shop or like any of those types
No,
of things? Or like, no,
no,
it's
I will.
all direct to
So
your
our
website.
if you go to our website, you'll see, I mean, we make beautiful jackets. We make Gore-Tex jackets. Our most successful product is and we make sweatshirts, lots of sweatshirts, all again, domestic cotton. And what customers seem to love to do the most is pick out one of our beautiful sweatshirts and then decorate it with their own, that airport code style, we PHL or DET or the name of their store. We do a beautiful sweatshirt for a store in Boston. They have East Coast. We do beautiful sweatshirts for a hotel on Nantucket, ACK. So essentially picking out a sweatshirt and decorating it with any number of our embellishment options, that seems to be the favorite. We, in fact, just opened a brand new store in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And so that and jackets, our Stevenson jacket, we've evolved Gore-Tex jackets, like I said. So those are the most popular.
And how did you pick Steamboat Springs? I love it there. Lovely town.
I will tell you, the founder of Boathouse was skiing in Steamboat Springs, and he decided that he was going to open some business, and he sure did. That's how. So yeah, I just saw those on the inspection line yesterday. So those will be hitting their shelf any day now.
All right, great.
Yeah.
And then what about for you and your career? What else, is there beyond Boathouse? Is right now the focus is just strictly here? What else do you see in store for yourself?
I don't see beyond Boathouse, but I think outside, or kind of more generally speaking, one thing I'd love to explore doing more of in an official kind of way would be maybe finding more opportunities for mentorship or advising startups or other small retail companies where I might be able to add some value. I've enjoyed joining the board of a couple local organizations here where I live. And so I think for me, that would be what I'm looking to, again, kind of just get my face and be out there a little more and be useful to people who could maybe benefit from what I've done right and what I've done wrong.
Yeah. Thanks. Excellent.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else you would like to share with the audience?
No. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it's been wonderful talking to you. Just
Thank you.
very impressive career path. It's always fun to, kind of be able to talk to somebody and hear how things came about and everything. And we'll make sure to include all of those links and everything that you had mentioned and do what we can do to drive people out there. I'll get there and I'll be picking out some Lions gear for myself. I'm from Michigan, so.
We have a great store in Detroit. I'll make sure to get the name of it and text it over to you. Yep.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you again, Jenny. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for inviting me. You too.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Executing the Vision. If you'd like to be a guest, go to emergelabs.us and click on the podcast page. If you like what you heard, please share the episode and subscribe. Ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show. You can find us on Instagram at brad.emergelabs, as well as X, Facebook, and LinkedIn, where we strive to provide valuable information on business and life. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the show and what you'd like to see in future episodes. Thank you again, and have a great day.